This is Mehwish. I'm a research associate at South Asia Research Institute for Minorities, and you are watching an exclusive interview series by SARIM. And today we have a very honorable guest with us. I'm very excited and happy to introduce our today guest, Advocate Rita Thapa Magar. She is co-president and a chief of international department at Federation of National Christian Nepal. Welcome to SARIM, Ms. Rita. How are you doing?
Thank you. Thank you very much, Mehwish, for inviting me over to this interview. Yeah, I'm doing very fine. Thank you very much.
Good to hear that. Let's get started. First of all, I would like to know a little bit about your education background and early childhood life, and where did you grow up and you belong?
Okay, just to give a brief update about myself. Actually, my dad is from Nepal. My mom is from India. So I kind of grew up in India, in the northeastern part of India, and I did all my education from India, or not all, the first master's and my law degree was from India, in the University of Northeastern Hill University in Shillong, is one of the states in India. The capital is Shillong, and the state is known as Meghalaya. And then I kind of did my education because, like, in comparison to the education, India has a better education than Nepal. Of course, now Nepal is much more improving, but previously Nepal didn't have that much of a good facility when it came to education. So my parents always wanted to give us children good education. So all my education, right from my early childhood till my first master's, I've got a master's in political science as well. And so I was practicing in India. I've got my advocate license from the Guwahati High Court and practiced in the Shillong High Court. Then I got married. That was in the year 1990, end of December. And then I moved with my husband to Sikkim. And from Sikkim, I had a life, I would call it the turning point in my life. I was much more into my career, the budding career, and also just started a family. But I had a turning point in the place called Sikkim, a state in India, where then I was nearly on the deathbed. So as a result, I kind of had a turning point and gave my life to Christ. And I wanted to serve God in any capacity, not only as a lawyer, but in any capacity, and to move anywhere as the Lord would direct me. So in the course of the time, my husband, who was already into the ministry of ministry called the Campus Crusade for Christ, he was the director. And so we came to Nepal, of course, like me as a Nepali citizen, but I always enjoyed my life, my career, my education in India. And so that's it. So I moved to Nepal with my husband in the year 1992. And then I had I didn't give like a full-fledged legal career in Nepal, because I was now involved also in the ministry, having a turning point in my life. And so I was also serving God, but in any capacity that I could, I helped in the legal process, especially. Then again, I had, because now being in the ministry, I felt that I needed to be equipped with the theological studies. So God gave an opportunity. So for 3 years, we were in Denmark, Europe, where I did a course on counseling, biblical counseling. Then from there, we moved to Hong Kong, where I did my Master of Divinity. And in Hong Kong, it was very good for me, not only pursuing my theological degree, but also the opportunity to help our Nepali people, especially. There are quite a lot of Nepali who lives there. In fact, during the time, it was more than 50,000, because I don't know how much of the Nepali history you know. The Nepalis, the Gorkhas had served the British. I still do that. So there are a lot of Nepalis. So I was able to help our community in the immigration department as well as in the labor court. So that was a good opportunity, doing our theological studies and yet at the same time being involved in the legal practice. So that's a brief background. And I am now in Kathmandu together with my husband, and helping in many capacity as an educator. We have also established a school, a Christian school, which is now 20 years now. And I also serve as a counselor, having got a degree, and do the biblical Bible teaching, and also being involved in the advocacy of Federation of National Christians of Nepal as a international chief and one of the co-presidents. Hope I was able to share in nutshell.
Thank you so much. It's quite interesting. Would you like to explain your involvement in Christian advocacy? Did you always want to support the minorities, particularly Christians?
That's true. As I've told you a little bit background about myself, having a legal background. So even before I was involved with the Christian community as a whole, even as a lawyer, I was always out there to help the people who were like deprived, So I remember helping even when I started my first career in the legal practice. So I was helping the minorities in the sense like those who were deprived, who were not able to have a voice. So I was always out there, especially to empower the women, because women in general, they didn't have much access to the legal help and all. And so even like when I was working in Hong Kong, like I was helping with the issues, the minorities, was it the domestic helpers who works in Hong Kong, and they have no voice because the employers could do that. I have had a very interesting case in Hong Kong, domestic lawyers. So now having come back to Nepal and being a Christian, and Christianity in Nepal is a minority, as you know that. Nepal is a Hindu dominant country. In fact, before the Nepal became a democratic country, before it became a secular, it was the only Hindu country in the world. And as a result, Christianity was a persecuted faith. So my involvement with the Federation of National Christian is because we are a minority in the religious and also in the community. So as a result, my voice is there to help bring an advocacy or speak on behalf of the minority group.
Well, it's very impressive. Who and what has been your inspiration? I'm very curious to know about how you started your career and what are your future aims.
My inspiration, just to give you a little brief background, actually, I come from a converted family. My parents were very staunch Hindus before, but my dad had a very dramatic conversion, and as a result, we became Christian. And for me, it was not because they always sent me to a good Christian school. So I knew Christianity, about Jesus from a head knowledge, and I always admired him. But having a personal relationship with him, and my inspiration to be an advocate or to pursue a career where not many women, especially in my context, I practice not now, but long time back, when I started my law journey, when I started the law, it was in the 80s, late 80s, when I wanted to join law. I remember it wasn't that easy in our community because they would say, lawyer is not for a woman, you better become like a college lecturer or teacher, which is like you kind of stereotype the career. So my inspiration to pursue because for me, justice is something that is very dear in my heart. And so as a result, my first inspiration were my parents, especially my mom, who always used to give a high ideal for the girls. She would think girls are not just the stereotyping. She gave us the best education so that we can compete together with the boys. In fact, just to give you a brief background, I was the only girl in my whole class in the law degree, especially in the second year and third year. First year, there were a few girls, but after the first year, the law study was a bit tough. They kind of dropped out. And when I reached my final year in the law LLB course in India, I was the only girl. So that was my inspiration, came from my parents first. Then later on, when I became a Christian, personal relationship with Jesus. Of course, Jesus is my greatest model because he is the one who helps the downtrodden. He came to save us. So that's my greatest inspiration. And whatever I do is not to pursue myself, my career uplift. It's just because I want to be obedient to the call of God in my life.
Well, it sounds pretty inspirational. So being a Christian living in Nepal, what challenges have you faced so far while you're working on the various aspects of minority rights? And which moments of inspiration have led you to work for the minority support and assistance?
Thank you for the question. Actually, living in Nepal as a Christian is not very easy because as a minority from every aspect, whether in the social life and the community, especially with the government, like kind of targeting Christianity as a foreign religion. They have a lot of accusation against us, which is actually not very true. So that is very, very challenging, because me as an educated person, sometimes the concept of people here, most of them, not everybody, but majority of them thinks that Christianity is a religion that only the lowest caste, like the Dalits, or if you're uneducated, you are ignorant. They have this wrong accusation saying that, oh, people become Christian, they get dollars. That's a false accusation. I personally have been asked by some of our educated friends, the elite friends, like the doctors, the pilots. We have friends with those people, and they say, why did you become a Christian? Because aren't Christians supposed to be only for the downtrodden, meaning that lower in caste or have no education? So that is a wrong concept. So in order to make sure, of course, the gospel of Jesus Christ, who loves everyone, it is for the rich and the poor, educated and uneducated. So the concept we have to, and I think it very challenging to be a Christian, because sometimes when you say you are a Christian, sometimes the perception of a Christian is kind of you are a second-class citizen, and I have had a lot of bitter experience. Even though I'm educated, I have had many high education with double masters and law degree, traveled the world, studied outside abroad many, yet I kind of feel to me, they don't do like openly, but I can feel the moment I say, yes, I'm a Christian, I believe in Jesus, then the kind of the way they first, I have been in many committees, some committees of the government level, but when I kind of say what I believe in, then sometime I kind of feel after a few meetings, I don't get the call. Things like that. It still happens, not overtly as I said, but still. So in such a challenging environment, I believe that firmly and strongly, we are here to raise the voice and be an advocate, saying that, hey, we Nepali Christians are also an equal citizen of the country. We are here in this country to help develop the country. We are at par with you, so don't treat us. So that's the reason why I feel that we are into this advocacy group, and especially with the Federation of National Christians for Nepal.
Yeah, well, life is very difficult and challenges for those people who stand for the justice and rights for the other people's everywhere. So it's really meritorious. And how long have you been working with the Federation of National Christian Nepal, and what is the vision of this organization, and what accomplishment it has made so far?
Okay, this is a very interesting question, because the Federation of National Christian Nepal, actually, I have been with it since the very beginning, which is towards the year of 2007 and 8. 2007 and 8 was a turning point in the Nepali history, because as I told you, that Nepal had a 10 years of the civil conflict with the Maoist. And then previously, as I said, it was an absolute monarchy. It was the only Hindu country in the world. But after the Maoist movement of 10 years of Maoist movement from the year, to 1996 to 2006 and 2007 and 8, there was an agreement. So what happened was that Nepal was changing its political scenario, its status, not only as a Hindu country, but now becoming into a secular country, becoming a federal democratic government. So now that country's policy was changing, politics was changing, the system of government was changing. So what happened? The Christian community, which was very much oppressed during the only Hindu state of the country, had no voice. So now that the system of the government was changing in Nepal, the Christian community in Nepal in the year 2007 and 8 decided to have a voice, because the country was drafting its own constitution by the people. And as a result, there was a committee that was known as the Advisory Committee to the New Constitution of Nepal. Okay, this was a Christian. For the first time, the Christian community wanted to bring a voice even to the new constitution. So the vision of FNCN, or the Federation of National Christian Nepal, is to see a dignified Christian community, experiencing the full rights to the religious, social, and economic inclusion into a prosperous Nepal, as well as partnering with the global Nepali-speaking churches And our ultimate vision is to bring glory to God. So we want to see a dignified and identified Nepali Christian community in Nepal, and also would like to partner with the globally Nepali speaking churches all over. So that is the vision. And you were asking me the question, what are its achievements, isn't it? So yeah, the achievements of major achievements made by FNCN ever since its establishment in 2008. So this is a registered government. It's an umbrella organization of all the Christians, Nepali Christians in the country. And so I'll just give you a few. Like, first of all, like one of the achievements of FNCN is to observe, like before that, Christmas holiday was never a recognized holiday. So the FNCN was successful in establishing Christmas, the 25th of December, as a public holiday, okay? And it was there, we were enjoying the freedom since the year 2007 till 2015. But after 2015, this holiday was again cut off. But this year, when I say this year, I mean 2021, last year, again, we were successful after lobbying to the government, after pressurizing the government. The FNCN was successful in installing Christmas back as a public holiday. So one of the bigger achievements, at least the Christian community in Nepal now can celebrate Christmas as a public holiday so that the children doesn't have to go to schools. There are no exams held. So that's a big achievement. Another one is like we were able to have an agreement with the government of Nepal. In the year 2011, the FNCN, he organized a 40-day fasting program, but in the eyes of the government, it looked like a 40 days hunger strike because we did not have any rights in the country. No burial ground for the Christians, the churches were destroyed, we were a lot of things. So what happened was after the 40 days hunger strike, but actually for the Christian concept, it was a fasting, we held it in the public ground in the city of Kathmandu. And after that, the government, we brought notice to the government. It was a very peaceful staging, no like rioting, nothing of that sort, no violent, but it was done peacefully, 40 days. And after 40 days, the government came to, they noticed us and we signed an agreement with the government of Nepal. This agreement is known as the 3 points agreement and the 6 points agreement. And in this 3 points and 6 points agreement, the government has given us, we have certain rights that the Nepali Christian community will get it. Like, for instance, the registration of the church, having a legal commission for the Christian community, a burial ground, making our education recognized. So these are the 3 points, which is as a legal document, which is kind of our document that we have. But unfortunately, because the political situation in the country was very unstable, so when the government changes, they were not able to implement it. So our still desire, we have the document signed and sealed by the government of Nepal, but we still have to see that it is being implemented. And that's why FNCN is fully engaged and trying to make sure now that the present government will try to implement at least some of the points.
This is truly admirable. Can you please tell us how many people are involved in this mission and what socioeconomic and socio-political challenges they face in addition to religious-based discrimination?
Okay, when I say about how many people, instead of giving you an exact figure, we don't have an exact data of how many Christians there are, but roughly it is estimated there could be almost like 3 million Christians in Nepal. Okay, we have a 30 million population in the country, and out of that, almost 3 millions are Christians, 10%. So, but we are doing a good thing about FNCN, Federation of Nigeria. We are also doing kind of a collecting of the data of the Christians. So right now, FNCN has launched recently a pilot testing project about finding the status of the Christian community in Nepal. So after this data is collected, we will be able to tell you exactly whether it's 3 millions or 2.5 millions. But as of now, the average is 3 millions. So out of the 3 millions, I said, FNCN represent the Nepali Christian community. So there would be people of 3 million and about 12,000 churches. So this is the estimated, the exact data will come when we get all our data. The project is ready. Now you said, what are the challenges, socioeconomic? Definitely, that's a one issue, because Christian community has been kind of a deprived or a neglected community. And as a result, the socioeconomic, there are quite a lot of, I would call it that many of the Christian communities were from a very deprived backgrounds. But even the exact data of what is our social economic, now that the Christians families, the Christian communities have realized the value of education. As you know that wherever the Christian gospel has got, education has become like there's a transformation not only in the lives of the people, but also a transformation in the community. And that's what we have experienced it. Now, many of the Christian communities are realizing the value of education. So many of the parents are now. So in our recent years, we have seen that many young Christian young people are being educated. They are into medical fields. Many doctors are coming up, but there are still many, we are still lacking behind. So the socio-economic in the urban areas, Christians are well off. It's okay. They are at par with the other communities. But in the rural areas, in the villages, Christians are still very poor. They are deprived. They are the grassroots level of community. So our desire is to see, we want to develop the socio-economic status of our Christian community, and of course, the whole Nepali as a whole.
Well, may God give you and your entire team more strength to fight for the minorities against persecution and discrimination. So, is there research and publication? Have you organization published on the persecution of minorities? Or if yes, then what kind of data have you been maintained by your organization for the future studies?
As I said, when it comes to any publications, we do have a few publications, our own magazines and all. But when it comes to the data, that should be a valid data that is recognized both by the government as well as by the international community. That's why I said a recent project of FNCN is that we are working on that. We want the data that we are going to have it will be recognized, recommended, and affirmed by. In fact, FNCN, Federation of National Christian, has approached the Bureau of Census and Department. In fact, right now in Nepal, the census, the 2021, we did after the 10 years, the census was taken. So together with the government of Nepal, the National Christian, the Federation of National is doing a document exactly. And that document, I hope that I can pass it on to you when it is ready. And that document will not be just a general document. It will be a valid document. So that document will receive the approval of the government of Nepal, as well as when we send it to the international communities, data will be the exact or the valid data showing about the Christian community, not only the numbers and sizes, the number of churches, the number of persecuted Christian, but also you will be able to see exactly the socio-economic factors, status of the Christian community in Nepal. Hope you will get it someday.
Yeah, well, you are right. We would love to see your publication and your research paper when it will be uploaded. So, what is the level of the various type of persecution and discrimination that Christians are encountering in Nepal?
Oh, yes. As I told you, Christians in Nepal are, as I said, is one of the most targeted minority groups, religious groups in Nepal. And we have had, in fact, one of our pastors still in the jail, is still under prison. It happened during the first pandemic outbreak, 2020, when there was a lockdown, and then this pastor had shared about his belief system that, oh yeah, our God is greater than coronavirus and nothing will affect. But even like that, even such a simple statement of belief, he has been put under prison. And then he was released on bail, and just recently I think it's towards the end of 2021, he's put back in the prison. So our pastors are undergoing prisons, persecuted because of their faith. We have seen people are being deprived of burial grounds. I was very shocked. Just 2 weeks ago, I came to learn about that a dead body, a Christian who died He was buried, but his neighbors came and said they all shouted, they beat up his relatives, and they asked them, the villagers asked them to take the dead body of the Christians. So you see, not only when the Christians are alive, but even when you are dead and your bodies are buried, even the dead body has to be removed. So you can see the level of persecution and how much of a harassment the communities are doing that. That's why we really have to speak on behalf, and then we want to pray. We are praying and trusting and also doing our part to be a voice so that our people, our community are not being persecuted too much.
Yeah, we can see that the persecution against the minorities is very common in all regions of South Asia. Since 2019, the COVID-19 epidemic has wreaking havoc in South Asia. As a result of the pandemic, countless people, particularly minorities and those from the unprivileged communities, have lost their employment and livelihood. Can you briefly tell us about the hardship of the Christians in the current pandemic?
I told you about the pastor that's still in prison. Now he has been convicted of 2 years in the prison. It's all because it happened during the pandemic, and pandemic has been a time where there was so much of discrimination, especially during the pandemic, especially the first wave and the second wave. During the second wave of the pandemic that hit like last year towards the spring and early summer, when a lot of our Christian pastors and also people from the Christian communities, we became victims of the coronavirus. Then what happened was, see, we have no place for burial. Okay, even so many of our senior pastors, because we as a Christian we believe that our Christians should have a burial ground. At least they should have a decent place for burial services. But because we have not, so bodies is like dumped like anything. So it kind of affects our sentiments. Our pastors who have been like 90 years, they are the pioneers who started the churches in Nepal, 90 plus years, and yet body just dumped like, so there are so much of discrimination that is taking place. And the rumor, the media is actually very much biased also, so that the media kind of trigger anti-sentiment Christian and anti-Christian sentiments to the people. And as a result, this pandemic, this lockdown, the Christian community have suffered a lot.
Yeah, you are right. The pandemic is really worse for the whole world. Everywhere people have lost their loved ones, but we can say people have had a hard time throughout the epidemic. So, what kind of step have you taken to protect and support the Christian minorities' right in Nepal during the pandemic? And how are you aiding them in their struggle against the day-by-day persecution?
For the pandemic, as you have mentioned, that is very true. It has affected the whole world, and despite your background, religious background or whatever minority background, everyone became a prey or a victim for that. And so, in order to help the Christian communities in Nepal, what we did from FNCN was actually many of the Christian pastors who died, their churches locked. They have no means. They have lost their loved ones. So what we did was from FNCN, which is Federation of National Christians of Nepal, we wanted to help our people, our community, and not only giving them spiritual teachings or giving them encouragement. We did like a counseling courses, and not only that, to help them be strong in their faith and also to help them economically. FNCN is not like a funding agency. It is not. It is an advocacy agency. But because so many of the Christian pastors, especially in the rural areas, the pastors died in one family, 3-4 members died. So what we did was, we at FNCN, we have an international, we have we call it the FNCN diaspora. We have in all the 4 continents. We have in Australia, Europe, US, North America, and also we have in Asia, different countries. So we reached out to our diaspora team and said if they would help us, even in the economics. So what we did was, we were able, the FNCN diaspora team were able to manage some money, and through FNCN, we were able to help the church leaders people who have lost their, so kind of financial help. But just to remind again ourselves, we are not a funding, we don't have money for, we are a voice, we speak. But because at times it was a crisis situation, there were many families who were deprived of the daily, their sustenance. They had no food, nothing. So in order to help, because that's what the Bible says, if somebody is hungry, that's what we do. So we were able to share our love through words, encouragement, counseling, but also to help them materially.
Well, I must say that your work and efforts are really commendable. And what is your assessment for the impending humanitarian crisis, particularly with minorities? Do you have any recommendations for lowering the ratio of these crises?
Yes, yeah, as I said, we are involved not only with our community alone, but we are also working together with the other religious minorities, because we feel that, we need to join forces together. So there are other minority groups also. So we kind of build a network with them so that our voices, when we are lobbying to the government, when we are bringing our as an advocacy to the government, so we do a network with them. That's why we are a part of the SAFORP, South Asian Federation of Religious and Belief. We're part of that. We try to do that, join with the seminar, talk about how the human right issue can be addressed. And we bring in our memorandums to the government or to the local government or to the federal government or to the provincial government to make sure that our voices are heard. We kind of approach, and especially just to give you a good achievement that we were able to do this last year was during the Christmas time. FNCN always organizes a big Christmas event, and we were able to invite the president of Nepal as our chief guest. And so this is to our way to work that the authority take notice of us. So when the president of Nepal, we have our president, Mrs. Vidya Devi Bhandari, she became our chief guest. She came to be on the 25th. She came and she addressed through the nationalized televisions and media and all. She acknowledged the work that the Christian community has been contributing in Nepal in the field of education, in the field of health, in social services. She acknowledged it. And as a result, what happened? That was to hear the president of your country acknowledging the work. It kind of gives a good ripple, so that the people in the community will realize, hey, we should not persecute them, you should not treat them, because it has been well recognized. So that was one of the biggest achievement, I would say, right now, as of now, because you have been acknowledged, your work have been recognized. So that kinds of, it brings down the persecution level or the discrimination level a little less. And then we are motivated, our community is motivated even to do more in the days to come.
Well, thank you so much for your valuable suggestions. Social attitude and hate speech, attack and violence toward the minorities are too widespread in South Asia. What are your thoughts on the plights of Nepal's minorities, especially Christians?
I think our South Asian region is very true. It's kind of a little biased towards Christian community as a whole, and we are as a minority in our part, in the South Asia, we are a minority. And so what we do is how we do it, the approach is normally what happened had it been other minorities, when they are being discriminated or when they are being targeted, they kind of retaliate with violence. But for a Christian community, from our experience, we don't retaliate with violence. What we do is we want to show, we show that we bring in our voices, we advocate, or as in a peaceful manner. And as a result, I believe that if we minorities in South Asia, whether it's in Nepal, India, Pakistan, yes, we have to stand up for our identity. We have to stand up for our dignity. But if we do it in a consistent manner, and also not in a violent way, because we know that the Bible says that you have to love your enemies. If someone strikes you on one cheek, turn the other cheek. But how do we do that? Yes, we do that consistently, despite the fact, remember, even though our country, our government may be against us, but we continue to pray for them. Every week, FNCN has a prayer program. Every time, every Wednesday, the central, we have different days where we keep on praying. So what we do, the way we try to work is through the biblical way is to love consistently, to pray for those who persecute us, and yet be speaking, continue to speak. I feel that it's not just one time, a seminar or a convention you speak and then forget, but consistency is the key, and to show that in every aspect. I think that is the best way to do it.
Yeah, thank you so much for your insight and thoughts. As we all know that the minorities in Nepal endure tremendous discrimination, human rights violations, dominance, and different types of persecutions against Dalit and Muslims. What role does youth have in fostering peace and preventing Christian persecution?
Yeah, the youths have a very important role to play, because the youths are the future, the present and the future. They are the pillars of the society, of any community, of the government, everywhere. So if the youths are educated in the right way, we have to mobilize the youth in the right way, because the youths are very active. They can become very aggressive also if you don't educate them in the right way. Either they become very passive and say, oh yeah, it's none of our business, or else they become very aggressive. I still remember that during the first years when Christians were discriminated so badly that our dead bodies, we had no place to bury the dead. And some of our dead bodies were taken out from the burial ground and thrown out put on the road. And some of the young people of the churches, they got very angry. They want to take revenge, but we had to control them and say, yeah, yes, you have to speak up, but in a different way. As I said, our strategy, the way we approach things is very different. But the youths have to be mobilized. The youths have to be educated. And the education begins everywhere, right from the home to the church, to the school, to wherever they are. We have to. And I think the youths, and that's why in our FNCN, we have a youth department, and we try to involve the young people. And we want to say that we kind of mobilize and motivate the young people. And most of our leaders, the leadership are also, I would say, all in the not beyond 50s. Like, I think one or two we have in the 60s. The rest are all in the 50s. So I think it's a good time to mobilize so that we carry on the vision and pass on the baton to the future generation. So the youth has a very important role to play.
All right, Ms. Rita, the United Nations Compulsory Resolution, International Human Rights and Minority Rights Declaration and national constitutions all exist to safeguard the minorities' rights. Yet the minorities are suffering from the regular persecution. In your opinion, what are the key factors responsible for the continuously increasing in the minorities' vulnerabilities?
Despite the fact that our country of Nepal is also a signatory to the United Nations Human Rights Declaration, everything is there. One thing is very sad is what is written in the paper or in the document, but when it comes to practice is a little bit different, that. And why it is like that is also because I think that's what we are understanding, that why what is written in the document, why what is signed in the international community or the UN agency, why it is not being implemented in our local level, in our context, is because we do not have a watchdogs from our communities. So, and I think most of the people who are up in the governing roles, they are from the majority group. And as a result, what they say in the international arena, they go and speak in Geneva, they go and speak in New York in the UN, and they come back home, but it's a different scenario. And there are no watchdogs from our minority. We do not have many educated people. We do not have much voices. And I think it's one of the reasons, because if we mobilize the international community and report saying, hey, these people, our president or our secretaries or our prime minister go and speak in Geneva and in New York saying, oh, we have equal human rights. But in the local context, why it is not being done is because there's no one to report. That's why I think we have to educate our minority, from the minority group to be educated and be a watchdog and communicate. That's why we FNCN, like I am happy because of my background from the law and other fields, I'm here so that I can be here. Because if people are there, they know they are being persecuted. But if they have no voice to bring it to the international community, to the UN keep on signing. Nepal is a signatory to the UN. I'm sure your country is also signatory to the UN. But why we have so much of persecution in our context is because out there who go and sign, but when they come back, they just ignore it. And I think it's about time the minority community has to raise people who can bring a voice. And we want to make sure that we work together. Let's do a networking among the South Asian people who can bring a voice. And then we can say that, hey, our country is a signatory. Put it into practice, what you write, what you do it in the international. I think that's a lack of such people, lack of awareness, or lack of, there is awareness, but there's no one to speak the voice. So it says in the Bible, in the book of Proverbs, I think it's chapter 31, verse 8 and 9, that speak on behalf of those who cannot speak for themselves. So I think I would like to have this work, networking together and be a voice to our voiceless people.
Undoubtedly, liberty is a birthright, not only for the majorities, but for all human beings. So definitely it is responsibility for all higher authority to protect the rights of minorities. So the next question is that what do freedom and liberty means for the minorities, notably Christians, and who are regularly face the discriminations against on the ground of caste, sect, and creed?
Yeah, you're right. Liberty is a birthright. Is true. But how liberty is defined from one context to another varies, So it depends. Of course, as I said, everything looks nice in the paper. But what is liberty? How is liberty defined for a discriminated minority people? Think about from a religious perspective, the religious minority like Christians, where you say our constitution gives us, there is equality. Everyone, one of our fundamental rights is there is equality. Everyone is equal before the eyes of law. Yes, but the liberty that majority Hindu has, like, when in the morning, for example, the temple is full blasting, the bell ringing and chanting, and that they have the liberty to use their religious practice. But if someone of the minority group does that, they will be told that this is not allowed. So our liberty is not able to be recognized or else to be practiced. So it depends from, in the paper, yes, everyone is equal before the eyes of law, but it depends from what background you come from, what caste that you come from, what religious background that you come from. So as a result, those things, the fundamental rights that we have as a citizen, it is being, determined and defined by the background. And who defines it? The people who are sitting in the judges in the courts. Who are they? They belong to the majority groups. The police officers who determine who put the poor pastors in the jail, they come from the majority group. So they talk about liberty in paper, but it differs from the context. So that's why I would like to say that liberty is a very good, it's one of our, as a human being, when you are born into this world, despite your background, we all are born free, liberal. But as a result, you are not allowed to be liberal because of the background. And it all depends who defines it and how it is being. So I feel that these are very good values. We live in a democratic society, but even the word democracy, do most of our people know what a democracy means? No, they don't. They don't. It's just you're just being from one group to another. Previously it was under monarchy, but you are under, again, your democracy. Most of the people, they do not know what liberty means. Most people do not know what democracy means. So I feel that it's very important for us who are educated to define and educate our people. So that's why one of the main agendas, or one of our mission of FNCN, is to kind of give a training to educate our people. Give them a legal training. Legal means we are not making them lawyers, but we are trying to make them aware of their rights, their legal rights. See, you as a citizen, so we have started this. We have done it from province to province, and it is still going on because there are 77 districts in the country. And this we have just started because we want our people to know, because there's no awareness. They just sometimes, because they know, because out of ignorance, they are being persecuted. So that's why I think we have to define, educate our people about their rights, their dignity, about their liberties. That's what I feel.
Thank you so much for your knowledgeable thoughts and your sharing your experience. Within the context of global situation, where the collaboration, engagement, and mutual assistance are critical for strengthening the minority voice, what can SARIM and your organization do to the connect and benefit minorities?
Talking about how SARIM, your organization, and how FNCN are my organization, we can always work together because, as I said, when we join hands together, it brings something, to synergy. The different energies that comes from SARIM or from FNCN. I think when we put it together, the synergy that is created will help to mobilize to work on behalf of the minorities. So we have started the work to be an advocacy for the Christian community in Nepal. And we want to not only put ourselves within Nepal, as I said, one of our vision is to also network with the like-minded. And also, so as a result, in any way, whatever you do, like as in a workshop, or if there are, we can exchange our, what do you call, good practices. We can exchange issues, we can learn from each other, we can contribute, and if there need to be any joint effort to help bring our voices in the international community, let's do it together. But because I believe that individually or alone is hard to do that, but if we join forces together, because I believe that at the end of the day, the bottom line is that we are all working for the minorities, whether it's a religious minorities, whether it's a, I don't know, language minority, whatever the minorities are, we need to be a voice for the voiceless in whatever. So we are more than happy if SARIM, your organization, would like to kind of in any way do cooperate together. We are more than happy to come alongside and bring a voice to help the minorities.
Yeah, it would be an honor for us, and thank you so much for time consideration. I look forward to see you at the future conference or panel discussion. You may have attend many seminar and conference in other countries. So are you willing to join us and maybe visit Pakistan in future?
Oh, very much, very much. That would be wonderful. I remember in 2019, before the endemic, me together with two of our, what do you call, our president and the senior core, we were able to participate in the U.S. Department for the freedom of religious, I believe that was in the department, what do you call this, home department invitation. And it was wonderful to meet with people. So in the same way, we had several high-level meetings with them. So I would be more than happy in any aspect, in any capacity, because we would like to learn how you do things in your end, and we can learn from you, and we can pass on the experiences or whatever we are facing. I would be more than happy. So look forward to any invitation. And if we organize, as I said, once we do anything international level, I think because of the COVID now, travel has been a little restricted. But if things gets normal, we may also have international gatherings here in Kathmandu. Have you ever been to Kathmandu?
Yeah, thank you so much. It would be an honor for us. And finally, and more significant, do you have any advice or message for the Christians who are persecuted across the world, particularly in South Asia?
My advice or my prayer is that as Christians, of course, the Bible tells us that in the last days we will definitely go through where Christ have been persecuted. And of course, we know that persecution is a part of who we are, but it doesn't mean that we just stop saying that, okay, because Christ, it's also in the Bible, we say we have to stand up. But again, as I said, when we fight for our right, when we fight or when we want to bring our voices, our way, our strategy is very different. As I said, it's in a very peaceful way, but it'll take longer. But at the end, we are on the victorious side. So definitely, we will definitely win. We are already on the victory side. But as long as we are here on this earth, we will continue to do, and let's motivate each other. I would like to say, Christians all around, let's join hands together and spread love, unity, harmony. And through our love and the actions that we do together, I'm sure people will come, not only by our love, that they will come to know the love of God throughout.
So thank you so much for your worthy advice. And now it's time for leaving. It was a magnificent and impressive conversation with you, Ms. Rita. Thank you once again for your time, and we will get back soon with another special guest. Till then, goodbye and stay blessed.
Thank you very much, and thank you for the opportunity.